For this lesson, let's take a look at pages 16 and 17 in the Alfred All-in-One Level 1. And for page 16, we're going to switch over to the left hand. In the previous lessons, we were doing the right hand. Now we're going to take a look at the left. So this requires reviewing the bass clef. So let's take a look at the pages specifically. So here, see my book is pretty old, falling apart. So here we have page 16, and you can see that we're now using the bass clef. And you remember that the reference pitch for the bass clef, or the other name, in fact, for the bass clef, is the F clef. And F3, right here is C4, a fifth down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's F3 right there. So this is the reference pitch for the bass clef, and that reference pitch is located on line number 4. You can see it's labeled right there, that's F3. So what we're going to do is we're going to just warm up by playing each of these lines, line number 1, 2, and 3. And notice that the way that this is positioned is the 5-finger position for the left hand. So let's do that first before we play any of this. So here is the left hand in the 5-finger position. And so what this requires you to do is to place your 5th finger. Remember, the numbers for the left hand are exactly the same as for the right hand, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the left hand, you're going to place your 5th finger on C3, which is 1 octave below C4. Here's C4, 1 cycle down, C3. So the 5-finger position, just like for the right hand, means that you have your 5 fingers all in steps starting from, in this case, C3. So 5th finger on C3, 4th finger on D3, 3rd finger on E, 2nd finger on F, and your thumb, your 1st finger on G. So this is the 5-finger position on C3. And for the right hand, the 5-finger position starts on the thumb, the 1st finger on C4. But back to the left. So for the warm-up here on page 16, you are required to play fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 twice over in line number 1. So let's do that. So you're going to play G down to F, down to E, down to D, down to C, and that twice over. So just like we did with the right hand exercises, we're going to establish a beat like this. I'm going to give you the preparatory beats before you come in. Remember, it's going to go 1, 2, ready, and then you start playing. Okay, so line number 1, which is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, twice over. 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, line number 2 is the reverse of this. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to play 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, in terms of music, the terminology for reverse is actually retrograde. So we're going to say that line number 2 is a retrograde of the patterns in line number 1, because instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 twice over. And those are the notes C3, D, E, F, G, twice over. So here's your beat. 1, 2, ready, and. Oops, I hit one of these letters, one of these keys when I was hitting down here. I moved from here because I realized this is probably blocking your view. So I'm going to go from there. So let's try that one more time cleanly without me hitting any extra keys. I can also actually just use my leg, right? So 1, 2, ready, and. And let's do line number 3, which, as you can see, is kind of a combination of lines number 1 and 2. So this G, F, E, D, C is from line number 1, and this C, D, E, F, G is taken from line number 2. So it's a nice combination of these. So let's try that. Okay, here we go. Line number 3. 1, 2, ready, and. that was a nice little warm-up for page 16. And now let's go over to page 17. Now, page 17 introduces a new kind of rhythm, right? Just duration in music. This is called the whole note. So what can we observe about whole notes? Well, you still got the note head, but instead of, or unlike quarters and half notes, what's missing? There is no stem. Remember that line that extends from the note head. And by the way, as you can see on these examples, that line can be either facing down from the note head or facing up. The bottom of page 16 indicates to you how that usually operates. Basically, the story is once you get to line number 3, you can see this is line number 3, regardless of the clef. Once you get to line number 3, the stem starts facing down as you progress up. Everything below line number 3, like this is space number 2, in that case, the stem faces up instead of down. That's just a typographical issue, okay? Now, going back to this, in terms of page 17, so we've got 3 individual rhythmic values, right? Timings that we can apply to any pitch relative to other timings, right? Rhythms are relative to other rhythms. So we've got quarters, which each get 1 count, right? Or 1 beat, the way that we've been practicing. We've got half notes that receive 2 beats, or 2 counts. And finally, we have whole notes that receive 4 counts, or 4 beats. So that's what I mean by relative, that if this is 1 beat, the half note is 2 beats, and the whole note is 4 beats. So on the bottom of page 17, we have orally, this nice little piece, and it occupies 2 lines in the bass clef. Remember that we're reading music left to right and top to bottom. So if you look carefully, just in terms of rhythms, the first measure is 4 quarters. The second measure right there is also 4 quarters in terms of duration, because this half note is the equivalent of 2 quarters. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, right? The 4th quarter is part of this half note. Measure number 3, rhythmically, is just like measure number 1. You have 4 quarters actually articulated. And then measure number 4 is a single whole note. Now remember, a whole note is equivalent to 4 quarters. That's why it's the only rhythm indicated in this measure. As we move on to measures 5, 6, 7, and 8, you can see that the rhythms are exactly the same because, in fact, the music is exactly the same. Look at these pitches, C, F, E, F. Compare this measure to this measure, C, F, E, F. You can do the same thing with measure 2 on both lines, G, D, G. Measure 3, F, E, D, E, F, E, D, E, and finally measure 4, F, and F. So really what's happening in this piece is we have 4 measures repeated. So this is what's called a written out repeat. There is a way to indicate that measures should be repeated without writing them over and over again. And the way that's done is you would have usually a double bar line here with 2 dots in front of it. Now there are examples later on in this book where you'll see that. But for now, just kind of begin to remember this idea that sometimes you can write out a repetition, or there is a kind of shortcut, a symbol that allows you to see that, usually 2 dots in front of a double bar line. But we'll get to that. So if it's confusing for now, just kind of hold on to it and you'll see it in action a bit later on. Let's play this. So the fingers, or the fingering, is given down below, and the notes are indicated above. All you really have to worry about is just making sure that you're attentive to the different rhythms, the quarters, the half note, the whole note. So one way to practice this actually before we play, let's establish a beat. And what I'm going to do is just speak the letters rhythmically. So for example, when I get to measure 2, I'm going to do this. G, D, G, holding the G for 2 beats. And when I get to this F, I'm going to hold it for 4 beats. Hopefully I won't lose my breath. So here we go for line number 1. 1, 2, speak the letters, ready, and C, F, E, F, G, D, G, F, E, D, E, F. You got it with my little wind noise at the end, but you understood what I was trying to do, just to make sure you hold the F for 4 complete beats. So you can do the same thing with the numbers, of course, the fingers, right? Ready, and 5, 2, 3, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, and break. Okay, let's try playing it. It'll be more fun. So this first line repeats in the second line. So once you can play the first 4 measures, obviously you can play the next 4. So remember, my hand is back in that 5-finger position, left hand on C3. And so this is 5 on C, 2 is on F, 3 is on E, 2 is back on F, 1 is on G, and 4 is on D. Okay, so let's actually try playing this. That was just sort of walking through the all the pitches in this 5-finger position. So here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. 2, 3, 4, release. All right, so that was the first line. Let's play it without me talking over it, without stopping. All 8 measures of this exercise. It's really just 4 measures twice over. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, release. Okay, so the most important thing of this lesson is that you are careful about the distinction between or among the quarters, the half notes, and the whole notes, and that you really hold all those rhythms out for their full duration relative to one another.